The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Let's pray. Eternal God, we thank you that your mercies are new each morning, and as we come before you, we ask that you would direct our day. And we acknowledge our dependence upon your sovereign guidance, and we pray for your wisdom as we make decisions. May our hearts reflect the prayer of the psalmist David when he said, "But as for me, I shall walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be gracious to me. My foot stands on level ground. In the great assembly, I will bless the Lord." We give you thanks that we're able to serve you in the capacity to which you have appointed us. In his name we pray. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Lee Freshour from Albert Lee Assembly of God Church, Albert Lee, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 89th Session, 2015, 58th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, May 11th, 2015.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Comparison reports. There's a copy of this order of business on each member's desk. If there's no objection, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail and the substitutions will be made. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading, Senate File 280.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File number 698.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File 1350.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File 1854.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 2323 through 2327.
First reading, House Files 2323 through 2327. Messages from the Senate.
Messages from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which the amendments to concurrence of the House are respectfully requested. House File number 1725, an act relating to state government. The message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Christensen moved that the House refuse to concur in the Senate amendments to House File number 1725, that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House, and that the House requests that a like committee be appointed by the Senate to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses.
I'm going to have another refuse here.
The member from Dakota, Representative Christensen, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have some differences with the Senate, so I'd like to go to conference and talk about those.
Further discussion of the Christensen motion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will Representative Christensen yield for a question?
He will. Representative Thiessen.
Can you tell us what the differences are?
Representative Christensen.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Thiessen, our initial House file dealt with allowing constituents to file forms electronically. The Senate allowed the Office of Administrative Hearings to make rules electronically, expediting rulemaking and stopping some of the paper notices for rulemaking, and we'd like to talk about that in conference committee.
Any further discussion on the Christensen motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments to concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House file number 307, an act relating to transportation. Message is signed by Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Fabian moves that the House refuse to concur in the Senate amendments to House File number 307, that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House, and that the House requests that a like committee be appointed by the Senate to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses.
The member from Roseau, Representative Fabian, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. House File 307 is the bill that provided for proof of insurance through electronic device, your smartphone, iPad, and so forth. The Senate unexpectedly made a little change. I've talked to Senator Eakin about the change. He wants to go back to the original House language, and we just need to clean it up.
Further discussion on the Fabian motion. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the Fabian motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate files herewith transmitted. Senate file numbers 205, 1371, 1374, 1432, and 455. First reading of Senate files. First reading of Senate File number 205, an act relating to campaign finance. Sanders moved that Senate File number 205 and House File number 337, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
First reading Senate File number 455, an act relating to elections. Sanders moved that Senate File 455 and House File number 840, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
First reading Senate File number 1371, an act relating to labor and industry. O'Neill moved that Senate File 1371 and House File number 1549, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
First reading Senate File number 1374, an act relating to civil actions. The bill is being referred to the Committee on Civil Law and Data Practices. First reading Senate File number 1432, an act relating to natural resources. McNamara moved that Senate File number 1432 and House File number 1326, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Announcements by the Speaker.
Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announced the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on House File number 307, Fabian, Zerwas, and Hillstrom. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 1265, Davids, Hoppe, and Rosenthal. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on 1725, Christensen, Creshaw, and Poppy. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announced the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 997, Schumacher, Hoppe, and Atkins.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I move a recess to the call of the chair till approximately noon. Rules Committee will meet immediately after recess in the basement hearing room, and Republican members will caucus in room 5.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House DFL will also caucus immediately after recess in room 200. Would Representative Pepin yield for a question?
She will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Pepin, I don't know, last Thursday or Friday, we got an announcement that there was a target reached on the Ag and Environment Bill, and I don't believe the conference committee has met since then, and so I'm wondering what the status of that target and that conference committee is currently.
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen. We have not announced any targets publicly, and I'm not sure the status. You could ask one of the chairs of the committee on what they're doing in their committee hearings right now.
Will the Majority Leader yield for another question?
She will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also heard that there was a target reached on public safety, but apparently that's not the case as well, based on your last answer. If you could just let me know that.
Representative Pepin.
Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen, we have not announced any targets.
Representative Thiessen.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. If she would yield.
She will yield. Representative
Thiessen.
Thiessen.
5 or 6 days ago, it's appeared from the news stories that there was a lot of discussion at the leadership level about the health care bill and, the difference in opinion over the savings in the House bill, whether they were real or not. I'm just wondering if any resolution of that issue has been reached about whether we're going to count those savings that were in Representative Dean's bill or not.
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen. Well, the holdup actually seems to be about the gas tax and the gas tax. And of course, we have, as you know, we have a $2 billion surplus, but the governor and Senator Bach seem to be unwilling to move unless they have a gas tax. And frankly, we voted on it. I know we have 72 no votes on our side. You might remember on April 29th, we voted on it. We got 0 votes for the gas tax. So it would be helpful, I think, to move forward with the negotiations, since that seems to be the hang-up for both your colleagues in the Senate and Governor Dayton, is if you could relay to them that since revenue bills have to start in the House, that's a non-starter for us. So that's what would be helpful.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If she would yield for another question.
She will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Representative Pepin, can you explain to me how the gas tax has anything to do with the $300 million in savings or getting rid of Minnesota Care? How those two have anything to do with each other? It sounds like you've been focused, the discussions have largely been focused on the healthcare numbers. I'm not sure what the gas tax has to do with anything, unless your position is that unless there's something done on transportation, there's going to be no compromise on any other bills from your side?
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen. I'm just explaining what the holdup seems to be, and the holdup seems to be the gas tax. And you know, the Senate leader and the governor have said that. Well, actually, it's the Senate leader has said that not willing to move without a gas tax, and so that seems to be the sticking point of the budget negotiations.
Representative Thiessen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's interesting, to say the least. What I'm hearing, I guess, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the House Republicans are unwilling to compromise or negotiate on any bill, including the health care bill, which it sounds like you've been spending hours and hours and hours on based on news reports, unwilling to give up your fake savings. You're unwilling to move off your $15 in tax cuts for $1 in education investment in order to reach not just the 1%, but hopefully a 2% increase on the general formula. So if your argument is that you're not willing to have any discussions, you're not willing to compromise at all, that seems to me to be not a very healthy position for us to be in with less than a week to go before the end of session. So that I hope when you get back together at 1 o'clock, it sounds like you're getting back together, there might be some progress around these the money issues around healthcare. What I think the holdup is, from what I can tell from news reports, is that the Republicans are insisting on throwing 90,000 people off of healthcare. They're unwilling to admit that they have built their budget on fake savings, and that they're unwilling to say that we ought to be investing more in higher education and education. That seems to be the holdup, not the other things. And I hope that the position of the Republican caucus is that you're not willing to talk about anything else until you get transportation resolved.
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen. That hasn't been the holdup. I can assure you the holdup has been the gas tax, and we have had some discussions with the commissioner, some very good discussions yesterday. Unfortunately, last night, the governor and Senator Bach decided to break up at 7:30 and cannot apparently meet until 1 o'clock today. So hopefully we will have a chance to come back today and that we can move beyond the gas tax issue.
Representative Pepin moves a recess to the call of the chair until approximately 12 o'clock p.m. All those in favor of that signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the House stands in recess to the call of the chair until approximately 12 p.m.